David, we are live. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mark.
We're here again. We're midway through the year. We're here to talk about June, but you know what? We're not going to talk about the numbers. I think the numbers, you do a really good job of communicating what those numbers are in the press release, and the media picks it up. What I'd like to do is just pose some questions, maybe get into some more strategic conversation and see where the conversation goes. So Walmart keeps making headlines, and not just for the scale of their success in grocery, but now they're seeing that they're actually profitable in e-commerce, finally. With this move towards greater ability with in-store shoppers and online shoppers clearly coming through in their statements, what have you seen regional grocers do that works, that really mirrors or attempts to come close to that kind of success?
Well, first and foremost, it starts with knowing who your customers are. We talk a lot about that, and I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but that's something that, I believe many regionals may underestimate the importance of, right?
So when you say know your customers, give me an example.
Well, for instance, who is the primary target for your service? In the case of Walmart, it would be something like busy working families. And we capture that and see that in ours on the demographic side, looking at age, and that's that 30 to 44-year-old segment that is the largest, right? But they've identified that. Now, at the same time, they've also made clear that they're trying to appeal to all households, and some households they're underrepresented in, things like younger consumers, which is why when they've launched their membership program, some of the features and benefits might have been considered a miss from my perspective or yours, but that may simply have been because they weren't targeted to us, but rather they were throwing kind of a smattering of features out there with the aim of trying to appeal to the broadest audience. So in one way, they know who their core customers are and they're focused on them. And at the same time, they are trying other tactics to expand their customer base by testing and learning what works with those different groups. But first and foremost, you need to know who's shopping with you and why they're shopping with you, and what are some of the pain points or needs that you're addressing better than someone else.
Let's play devil's advocate here. Regional grocery executive is going to say, I know my customers better than anyone. And to that, a valid response would be, the customers are not the same as they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And the competition is also targeting that customer base. So is there something less obvious to regionals that you can advise? Knowing your customers is great. I could see, some regionals saying, I know my customer. But is there something less obvious that can help them compete in-store and online?
Yeah, so one aspect, and I'll push back, okay? I'll be the devil's devil advocate. Right? So I guess I'm the angel on the other shoulder. Is you say you know your customer, but if that's the case, then why is it that we have a lot of opportunities that have been yet to be exploited against in-store that our mobile app could help with? And that may be because the executive team hasn't thought about it that way, even though we've talked about it, right? And someone like Walmart had their own learning lesson here, right? Because when they had a previous acqui-hire who came in, his belief was you needed two apps because there were two different missions going on at Walmart. Well, we knew that was not necessarily the way customers shopped, and Walmart learned that themselves. So as we look at this, it's not all about online, although that's what we're primarily focused on.
Yep.
We do realize the importance of being omni-channel, and a key component of omni-channel where most regionals are still deficient is providing feature and functionality that enhances the way we shop in the store, full stop, right? Knowing what your customers' pain points may be, for instance, looking at how that technology can enhance it. So Walmart has Scan and Go. Now, there are ways you can incorporate that into a regional grocer that could take some pressure off your front end and still mitigate some of the concerns of theft associated with that type of practice. But that would be an example. I would push back and say, where are you with that thinking? Right. Obviously, beyond that, we know, we've talked about smart partnerships before within the community. Look at HEB's app today. And
Mhm.
the first thing you'll see is really outreach to the community to support the tragedy that unfolded over the 4th of July weekend. That's the first thing you will see in their app or website if you're there today. So they're living that. Obviously, local products are things that you're going to be in a better position to take advantage of versus a national player who really drives based on its scale and efficiencies. That creates some points of differentiation. Again, retailers know that. I just think consolidating the apps that you have beyond just the in-store. Hey, you have catering, you have bakery for cakes, and you have meals, hot meals. How can we make it easier for our customer shop? We need to unify those disparate apps into a more seamless shopping to make it simply easier for our customers to shop. Now, I'm not saying that every retailer needs to do all those things. Part of the process is understanding, where do they fall on the scale for those customers, right? It may be more digital deals is what they're looking for. We don't have the answer because we don't necessarily know who we're talking to, right? That's me now. So how I can address that and be more confident that we're going to have an informed decision that we can test and evaluate is by knowing those customers. And the customers online may be similar to those in store, but again, it may be for a different trip mission or a different need occasion. And again, technology is another factor that we need to account for that is impacting probably a large subset of our customers, especially those in grocery, because we tend to
Yep.
skew toward the more affluent, which tends to be the older group, and they tend to be the laggards on the technology side.
So you hit on changing customer behavior. So let me ask, we know pickup relative to any other fulfillment channel
Yeah.
method is not growing, and that delivery being more heavily promoted. And as you've said, it's got the juice. Are customer habits changing permanently? And does this mean that pickup's convenience factor has hit a ceiling?
Well, first of all, just to clarify, and we talked about this before we recorded this, is that pickup is still growing. It's just not growing anywhere near what delivery is. And as you said, it's because delivery is getting all the juice, right? They're getting all the attention from third party. They're getting all the attention from the national players because in a degree, they've cracked the code on cost with delivery, right? Because delivery always was the more convenient of the two options, but the barrier for expanded usage or penetration had always been those explicit fees. In fact, if we go back to research we did with Mercatus 2-3 years
3 years
ago,
ago. Yeah.
the number one reason, and it was a tie for why people didn't shop online for groceries, one, which everyone knows, is people like to feel, touch,
Yeah.
see their produce. But tied for number one was they wanted to avoid those unnecessary costs, those explicit costs, service charges, delivery fee, and gratuity. Now, delivery is effectively free. Go to the Walmart website and they talk about getting free delivery, right? Now, the implied part of that is that's part of Walmart Plus, but their advertising doesn't say with Walmart Plus, it says get free delivery. We are now in this world of effective free delivery where the only cost barrier now is gratuity. And gratuity is something the customer controls, meaning they can go to zero or they can tip as much as they want. And so with that there, the final barrier for sustainable usage going forward is the removal of gratuity. Now, to your point, is this behavior set in stone now? I'd say no. Why? Let's look at Express. Today, Walmart's touting that a significant portion of their business is now being delivered in under 3 hours. And we would be able to confirm that from ours. But what we also can see, and this is not published in the report, but we are always curious about these things, as you know, Mark. So we ask questions, which is, if you had an express order and we had asked how quickly did you receive your order, for those who had what we consider an express order, did you pay for that expedited service? Yes or no? About half of them did. So there was a
Oh, wow.
lot of trial going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we would say is it's too early to tell. There's clearly interest because people took advantage of the offer. I was given the offer to have free express from Walmart through Walmart Plus. I didn't take advantage of it because for me, buying groceries and having them delivered within an hour really isn't what I'm trying to solve. I'd rather order at night and get it at 7 o'clock in the morning. But that's me. Other people may. But to your point, 50% of them did pay for it. Those people, if they liked it and saw the value of getting it that quickly, again, time will tell. But clearly there's an interest there. But the key point I'd make here is when you remove the delivery fee, which memberships and subscriptions do, people are going to want their orders. The majority of people are going to want their orders within 3 hours. And again, go back to the research we did 2-3 years ago with you. We asked this looking at fixed fees. When you had a fixed fee, people would generally coalesce toward a faster delivery time because there's no trade-off. You're not asking them to make a choice between speed and fee. But what Walmart is doing and others in the industry are also doing, people like HEB, would be if you're offering the express service, the standard fee gets waived, but the express fee does not. Now, we are in a period of heavy promotional activity. And so now even the express fee is being waived in some cases. But when it's not waived, what you'll see is the trade-off come in place. And that is you'll see people dial back. And we saw this 2-3 years ago. They'll dial back because they're going to weigh the value of speed versus fee. And if someone has to pay $5 or $10 more to get it fast, now they're asking themselves, do I really need it? Or is this worth it? Right? So there's going to be a subset that likes it. There's a lot of trial there right now. But the more important point is if you don't have a subscription or a membership today, how are you competing in a world that's effectively offering free delivery?
Yeah, and you're right. That value equation from 3 years ago, the question set really hasn't changed.
It's really the framing of it, because whether it's a fixed fee or no fee, those are interchangeable because the variable, the fee, is fixed across time slots, whether it's $9.95 or $0. So then the question is, how do they respond to that? It's hard to nudge behavior one way or the other, but the minute you put the fee in for the express, that implicitly nudges the more cost conscious to the free option, which tends to be slower. And for regionals, that's really helpful because since they don't have the sheer volume of orders that Walmart has, nudging that order back an hour or two just enables you to batch one more order or two more orders out together, creating efficiencies in your assembly process, which, hey, let's take it anywhere we can, right?
That's right.
So instead of sending a single order out, let's send it out with two. And I know a lot of retailers are sending out 4 and 5 at a time, and that's great, so long as they have the volume. So these are the kind of the things that we've seen in the past, we've documented before. I just think the factor, the number itself has changed. It's no longer $9.95, it's now $0.
Let's talk a little bit about what regionals aren't getting or not understanding. If you had to bet on one thing regionals are getting wrong about eGrocery or shopper behavior right now, what would it be? What's the biggest blind spot that executives aren't seeing?
The value of the customer relationship or connection. And what I really mean by that is the underestimation of the value of the customer buying details, right? Being able to monetize that, being able to use it to target with more personalized offers. And I say that they're underestimating it. They're probably underutilizing it too. Put the two together and say, what does that mean? Well, let's put this in context. We had a poll question I asked on LinkedIn a week or two ago asking folks what share of Walmart's orders go through first party. Mm-hmm. A lot of regionals guessed really low. We had a scale from 95 to 65%. We had retailers hitting 65 and 75. And part of our belief there was, well, they're answering as if we were asking them about their business. The problem with that is they would have been high for their own business because most likely regionals were doing 55 to 65% through the first party. The issue is Walmart's doing 90 to 95% through the first party. And that's their strategy, right? Because it allows them to create all the synergies that strengthen these different activities, whether it's retail media, whether it's assembling, pick, pack, and staging orders, whether it's building route density. All that's possible because they've nudged or funneled that demand through their platform, right? So that they can monetize it, so that they can leverage that. When half of your business is sitting outside of your control, well, you've given up a lot to get there. And so that's probably one thing I would say, is that they've underestimated and underutilized the value of this granular customer data.
Great point. And that's obviously, something that we've touched on previously.
Yeah.
Just going to go back to what I mentioned off the top. We're halfway through the year. I'm going to put you in the hot spot. You're a CMO at a regional. How would you decide where to put your marketing and merchandising dollar for the remainder of the year?
This is a great question. So we'll go with a ratio, 70, 20, 10. Okay. 70% I'm going in on what we know works. I'm going to be focusing on things that can help build that basket. Personalization is going to help me do that. Now, that assumes that I have all the infrastructure underneath that done. If I don't, then 20% goes toward innovation and development. So, okay, if we don't have it, we got to build it. But what we really want to be focused on is ensuring we protect our existing customers, that we serve our existing customers as well as we can, that we execute our strategy as well as we can, because a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Customer acquisition is only becoming more challenging, but we do need to grow. And that's why we'll give 20% for growth initiatives, right? Like I said, maybe in part of that growth and innovation is, okay, there's some things that we're not quite ready for. We know that they're smart bets to make, so let's put the money in. And then the last 10% they're not moonshots, but these are things that we need to kind of test and learn. So right now there's a lot of information or insight or a lot of banter about AI agents. What does that mean? I don't really know yet. As a retailer, we either are going to figure this out ourselves, or we're going to lean on a partner to tell us. But either way, we need to have a person or a budget that allows us to start to see what's around the corner or what's over the horizon. And this is where, we're taking our risk, right? And it's 10% of my budget. So it's not as though I'm betting the farm on these things, because what I know is I need to take care of the core business first, protect that customer by better serving them and understanding them. That's the 70%. Then I got to go find new ones. That's going to be really hard. But without that, I'm not going to be investing or testing things with SEO or some type of social ads that are going to build awareness outside of my ecosystem. But again, I can never completely ignore all the new things that are emerging out there. So I should be at least somewhat versed in things that are going to affect my business maybe in 2-3 years down the road, even though I may not be developing them in-house.
Awesome. 70, 20, 10. David, that brings us to the end of the episode. Great feedback, insight as always. If anyone wants to reach out to you, how can they reach out?
They can send me an email at david.bishop@brickmeetsclick.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone interested in follow up with Mercatus, by all means, you're obviously watching this on the website, so check it out. Don't forget to subscribe and like this episode along with our other videos that we produce quite regularly. All right, David, thanks again. Talk to you next time.
Thanks, Mark. Have a good one.